Welcome to the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast.
Hi, I'm David Manti, and welcome to a new episode of the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast. With me today is Carl Sailing, co-founder and CEO of HighDay. Thank you very much for joining me today, Carl.
How you doing today, David? Super happy to be here.
Excellent. Well, before we get started, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. If you could also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach me at david@cannabisequipmentnews.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You can also subscribe to our daily newsletter. Make sure you get it delivered to your inbox first. Carl, I'm doing great today, mostly because you're joining us. I really appreciate you taking the time, man.
Awesome. Super happy to be here, and thanks for having me.
Well, I always like to start with a little bit of background. So, how did you get your start in the cannabis industry?
Great question. I've been an entrepreneur all my life. Started my first business when I was 16 years old. Believe it or not, I am 54 today. Well, not today, but now.
Understood.
And in 2013, I started my first business in the cannabis industry in San Diego. It was a delivery service under Prop 215, which was the loosely created medical framework, which, based on how things are going, was amazing. But and that allowed me to get into the business. And my goal always came from a point of helping people, because I believe cannabis is medicine. It's been my personal medicine for pretty much most of my life. Like, I don't drink, I don't take any other drugs. I'm not even on prescriptions, just vitamins and cannabis. So the delivery business enabled me to get into the business, to start having conversations with people, to start building my network up, all with an idea of building a large company. So my girlfriend and I at the time started it, who's now my wife. And we built this business together all the way through legalization in 2018. We were the first active and awarded license in the city of Hollister, California. We had created Hollister Cannabis Co. And started distributing and marketing all throughout California. In 2019, I successfully took that company public in Canada, which is rare for an actual cannabis operator to do that. But like I said, I've been in business for a long time, so it's not my first time. And then started making some really good acquisitions, built that business up. And then in 2021, I stepped down as CEO, basically out of the business, turned it over to the people that were there. One of the guys that we bought. And then I've been working in other areas, really focused on non-plant touching kind of stuff. So one of the biggest challenges that we've had as cannabis operators is getting shut down, turned off, blocked in our marketing. And that was a huge frustration for me. I mean, I have many, many stories of major issues with that. So I set out to solve that for myself, which in turn solves it for the industry. So we've now come out with a company called HighDay, which is an AI-powered all-in-one marketing command center for the industry. And you know what, David? Every day feels like Friday with HighDay.
Well, there's a lot to unwrap there, especially with that beautiful bow you put on the end there. But I want to start all the way back. You know, you've always been an entrepreneur. What was that first business when you were 16?
Yeah, so the first business I had was a ceramic tile and marble installation business.
Okay.
I had spent the summers and weekends working for my mom's boyfriend, who was this old school Italian dude. He was a craftsman, and he did all kinds of amazing projects. And I was the laborer working for him. And I would basically show up, and there'd be a mound of dirt, a bunch of bags of cement, 2 5-gallon buckets, and a shovel. And that's what I did, is I flipped flipped it back and forth, and that's how I got started. And then the funny thing is, so excuse me, I'm aggressive, and I see opportunity, and I take it. Like, I don't hesitate. So I'm 16 years old at my girlfriend's house. I had my little tile truck with my tools, and there's a knock on the door, and my girlfriend answered the door, and the guy was like, "Hey, whose tile truck is that?" And she got me, and I came up. I said, "Yeah, it's my tile truck." He goes, "Hey, I just got a contract to build 2,000 homes. I need a tile guy. Do you want to do that?" I was like, "Yes, I do." So I spent the next 2 years doing the same job every day. It was like it was a foyer and a bathroom. Sometimes it was 2 bathrooms and a foyer.
Oh my goodness.
So that got me into my own business, and then I learned real fast that I didn't want to do manual labor.
Well, I have to believe that the 2 years doing that work really kind of set the bar when it came to work ethic. And I mean, how hard you were willing to work to make your own business successful.
Yes. And I would say my work, and I still have that work ethic today. Like Will Smith, like you see him, training for movies or whatever. He goes, "I will out train you. Like I will I'll be on the treadmill the last." That's how I am. And my mom, believe it or not, instilled a lot of that in me. She was a saleswoman, the number one saleswoman, selling industrial tools to industries like, Bud Manufacturing or GM, which is a male dominated world, especially today, but this is back in the 80s. So I learned a lot of work ethic from her. And then also her boyfriend, Frank, the old school Italian dude, he taught me a lot about work ethic. Like, if I made a mistake or I did something wrong, there was like a trowel, like clipping my ankle. And then, like, to even go further to talk about work ethic. So, like I said, I learned real fast that I didn't want to do manual labor. And somehow I saw an ad for a independent jobber to sell steak, shrimps, and lobster. And I don't know why it intrigued me, but it did. So I went there, and they gave me a little truck and boxes full of food. It was called Anchors Away, anybody from the East Coast. And so I would go out and cold call literally 200 doors a day and sell this food. And the pitch was like, knock, knock, knock. "Hey, David, how you doing today? Mrs. Johnson down the street, her freezer broke. She couldn't take all my food. I've got to do something with this. Let me show you." And I come back in with like, $50 of the food. But that taught me a ton about sales, because every day I got all the objections, all the no's, all the yeses. I learned so much. It was a huge experience. Like, I would recommend some sort of sales, like hardcore, like cold calling sales, for anybody starting out early to learn about sales.
Well, it helps you develop, in my opinion anyways, it helps you develop that thick skin, just hearing no, 80-90% of the time.
Right. Exactly. And no just means they don't have enough information to make a qualified purchasing decision.
I need you to talk to some of our sales guys. So, as a legacy operator, you would witness the potent medical advantages of cannabis. At what point was it just the medical advantages it had with you personally? Was it anybody else in your life? And then when did you decide that you wanted to turn that into a business?
I guess for most of us, it was a little business in like high school days and stuff like that. Right.
Right.
But for me, medically, it's definitely helped people in my family. I have people in my family with Crohn's disease, and cannabis really helped him. So that really fueled my fire to get it out to as many people as possible. And something that's really cool. So my wife, she doesn't consume, but she's a believer, and an advocate. And early on, during our delivery business, we got so many phone calls from people saying how much cannabis is benefiting them, especially cancer patients and people with Parkinson's and glaucoma and all these different ailments. It was just, I mean, I knew it was there, but until you start actually talking to people that are actually in that situation and cannabis is benefiting that situation, it changes your whole perspective.
Completely agree. Like, I think there's that whole green rush aspect to it of the new West. But then when you see the real world consequences it has for millions of people, that really brings it all together.
Totally. And I mean, it was definitely about helping people. It was also about making money, because I believe if you don't make money, you can't help people. You can make money the right way, totally, and also the wrong way. We've seen it in this industry a lot. But not making money and helping people, they don't go hand to hand. Yeah.
So in your opinion, in this industry, what's making money the right way and what's making money the wrong way?
Oh man, that right there is a lot to unbox. So, I mean, there's still a criminal element in this business, which is shameful. And some people get caught. A lot of people don't, which is crazy to me. I'm super conservative when it comes to that. So I've left a tremendous amount of we'll say gray opportunity on the table. So that's a big piece of it. People operating in and out, like on both sides of legalization. Some because they had to, others because they want to. So there's that. There's and you know what? The issues are kind of siloed state by state. You know, there's the global issue of federal Schedule I drug and have it not being legal and everything that happens with that. But then in every state, because of their framework, it makes interesting challenges. You know, California is a disaster right now. I mean, I know I see some things turning, which looks exciting, but you know, the best of the best got chewed up there. And it's a combination of overtaxation, you know, because there's layers of taxes, because early on there was cultivation tax, then there was local tax, then there was the state excise tax, and all that combined together could be, you know, 30 to 40%, depending on where you're at. When your boy down the street's got the bag for half that. But for me, cannabis has never been safer. It's never been as clean as it is now. So that's a positive, because early on, when we were going from the Prop 215 into legalization, the testing really screwed a lot of people up. And we were having, especially for a little blip of time, having challenges finding product that didn't have things like Eagle 20 in it. Or we made a lot of bubble hash and hash infused pre-rolls, and hash holds on to everything. Like, you're not taking it through a solvent that, you know, clean, like a lot of the mold and heavy metals and stuff gets separated out. In bubble hash, I mean, it's a lot of heavy metals, and cannabis and hemp is like a bioremediator. So it sucks everything up out of the soil, and then you have it in your plant. So kind of went off on a tangent, but cannabis is the cleanest it's ever been. So that's, I'm super excited and have been about that for everybody.
Is the state of how clean cannabis is right now, is that part of, we're talking about you're starting to see things turn in California, or what are some of the things that, you know, with California being in such disarray, that are a bright spot for you right now?
Well, we're out of California right now,
Okay.
personally. But the fact that so many cities and counties ban it, as that loosens up, and more dispensaries are able to open up, I think it is actually one of the biggest issues, because there's just not enough access. Like before legalization, there was over 5,000 dispensaries, Prop 215 ones. And now, I don't know what the count is now, maybe 1,500 or less. I'm not sure. And then, so I think it's going to take more access, change in the regulations from the taxes, maybe improving the packaging regulations. Like we changed packaging and print new labels probably 6 or 7 times in the course of a year. When the packaging costs more than the product that's in it, that's a huge problem.
At what point did you realize, and I realized that had to be early on if you started your first business at 16, at what point in your life did you realize I'm an entrepreneur and I'm going to cut my own path?
So there was a few different things. So I grew up in New Jersey near Philadelphia, and I had some of the Philadelphia Flyers hockey team live next door to me. So I would take my friends over to meet them, but I would charge my friends a quarter. So that's kind of one instance. I started a roller skate and skateboard repair business when I was 7 or 8, and I had all this stuff all over the my yard. I had no idea what I was doing. And then I also started another business selling paper mache wood roses at flea markets and stuff when I was little. So I think I was born as an entrepreneur, but what really sparked it, the spark that lit the fire, I had just come out of rehab. I was 16 years old, 15 years old, which is a whole nother story. But I've lived a lot of things in my life, and I've been clean from everything else since then. Super success story with that. So, all right, I'm in my house and I am working on doing some tile in this little foyer in our house for my mom. And there is a bookshelf, and on that bookshelf is Think and Grow Rich. I don't know if you ever read that book. I as soon as we're done, go buy it. It's written by Napoleon Hill, and it was written in I want to say 1930 something, and it's the basis or the foundation of what all the self-help books that keep coming out are really based on. And I read that book and I haven't put it down since. I keep reading it over and over again. Like today, at the gym, I was listening to Success with a Positive Mental Attitude. And that was by the same author, Napoleon Hill, and another gentleman. So that I learned real quickly. Things like that really got me going and provided a framework for me to start thinking properly.
Okay.
Because you really need to think positive, plant seeds, goals, affirmations, visualization. One of my favorite sayings is within every adversity plants a seed for a greater benefit. So if you can operate that way when shit's coming at you, if you can figure out, okay, let me stop and think, what's the greater benefit here? You can move through it a lot easier.
No, it's great to be able to have those tools in your toolbox and then be able to use them in the moment when it's happening. I think that's a very important piece of the puzzle as well. Definitely.
But that book was what got me into really believing in myself and that I can really think and grow rich, right?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, and congratulations on, staying clean since you were 16. That is a tremendous success story. One part that I was curious about is you said you started the business with your girlfriend who has become your wife. A lot of times business gets in the way of personal relationships or really taxes them. How were you guys able to not only maintain your relationship, but build upon it into a marriage?
Yeah. So something that was very important was to kind of separate roles,
Mm.
and somebody had to be the ultimate like decision, like the one that makes the heavy decision. And that was me. And um, we had separate offices. That helped a lot. And as our business grew, I moved into a completely different building. Um,
Okay.
just it was just easier that way. So having clearly defined, we'll call it lines in the sand, and roles and responsibilities, so there's not this blending, and then just really good communication, and love. Takes a lot of love.
Well, with a little bit more levity on the conversation, as I was going through your history, I noticed that you once held the position of director of awesome. How did you attain such a position, and why would you ever transition away from that?
Yeah. So the cool thing about owning your own business is you get to make up your own titles.
True.
And I was thinking, I don't know, I like to stand out. I like people to remember me, or at least to remember they met me. And director of awesome kind of like makes you think. Like one of the things that I switched it up a bit, but whenever I communicated with anybody, I would always say, "How are you doing?" Or if anybody asked me how I was doing, and my response was always unbelievable. No matter if I was getting stabbed in the back, whatever, I would be unbelievable. And that would go both ways. And it was really for me, because if I wasn't feeling really positive that day, if I said I'm unbelievable enough times, I became unbelievable. But now I've switched it to my response is awesome. I think that's even more positive, because unbelievable, you can be, I'm unbelievably shitty, I'm unbelievably great, but I'm awesome. So that's my response.
So tell me about the experience with Hollister and building Hollister. What were some of the, greater successes that you experienced while doing that? And what were some of the greatest challenges that you ran into as an operator?
Yeah. I would say there's been a bunch of wins. Being the first licensed cannabis company in Hollister was huge. We got all five of the four board of supervisors and the mayor all voted positively. Earlier on, like we had the Mormons kind of fighting it, that they were out with the pitchforks and torches and all that stuff. But I welcomed everybody, and I really connected with the whole community, brought them into our business, showed them what was up, explained to them, hey, we're not some evil organization that's going to start giving weed to your kids. All that kind of crazy stuff that you would think people would be thinking and saying they were. And we successfully overcame that. And they were actually our advocates afterwards. Like the dude that was the biggest adversary became one of our advocates. And it was his like response was amazing. It was like, man, I didn't realize that you guys were a business like this. Look how, just everything was high and tight. It was just set up perfectly. That was definitely one win. Being able to successfully take your company public in any business is pretty huge. To be able to do that with cannabis in 2019 in Canada, the window was closing, and it's shut now. That was a huge win. Some other wins, like so I'm a big hard rock and metal fan. My passion is cannabis and metal, and to have more metal in cannabis, let's go. So we were able to do an awesome project with Clown from Slipknot.
Okay.
And we created a line of bubble hash infused pre-rolls with some awesome packaging. I don't have it here at my desk, but it was super cool packaging, and that was fun.
Yeah.
And there's more wins. We had great people. And then also, honestly, being able to build this with my wife was a huge win for me.
You talk about grassroots outreach with the community, and I think that's something that is vital for the health of the industry and for it to thrive. Do you think that other operators are doing enough with community outreach from a grassroots level, or do you think there's more to be done?
Well, there's probably always more to be done. But I do think a lot of the operators are trying and doing their best. I do know that it's kind of like this, right? Some MSOs, multi-state operators are really committed to that, and they're doing amazing work in many of the states that they're in, others not so much. But when you look at the farmers up in Humboldt and places like that, that's where the grassroots, I think, really is. But I mean, we can always do more.
So what were some of the troubles you were having that led to the seed that eventually became HighDay?
Right. So, man, I've had many different email accounts shut down, websites turned off. I've had my SMS campaigns completely turned off and banned. I've gone and tried to sign up for things, and I've been turned away. All of the social media, there's tons of issues there. So, I mean, the list kind of goes on and on. I remember one time, it was right before a big campaign we were launching, everything was turned off. I couldn't even do it.
How did you bounce back when things were turned off on you? And, how have you turned that into a new business plan?
Yeah, so we bounced back by, fortitude and doing whatever we could to get it done, sending out things from personal accounts, doing other company names, whatever we had to do. Mm-hmm. So I took all that angst and all those issues, and I really wanted to solve it for myself because I really got tired of it. I'm really tired of being shunned or shamed or whatever because I'm in cannabis. Try to get a mortgage with cannabis income. It's a big pain in the ass. So I've had bank accounts, I had 8 US bank accounts shut down. None of them were cannabis, just because maybe they Googled me and because I'm all over the place with cannabis on Google. So anyway, so I set out to fix this for myself. And what I ended up creating was an amazing platform that does just that. So, and now with AI, we've integrated AI into it. So we have SMS, we have email, we have social media marketing. So we can do scheduling and posting out, for years if you want to. We have a unified communication platform. So all of your communication from your customers funneled into one spot. So if they hit you with email, SMS, they come in on an Instagram DM, they hit you on your Google My Business, they hit you from Facebook. It's all, and WhatsApp now, it's all going to come into one spot, which is huge. And then automate as much as you can. So we have full automations that can do all, it does amazing stuff. I'm super excited. Plus we have loyalty. I mean, literally it replaces thousands of dollars a month of tools.
How does it prevent people from being shut down? How do you steer clear of that?
Right. So my previous background, which would be in between the steak, shrimps, and lobsters and the cannabis, there's a bunch of stuff too. So I built a really large telecommunications company in the 90s. So I tapped back into that and built my own SMS network. So it's not going to get shut down. It's mine. Okay. If anybody's going to shut it down, it would be me, and I'm not going to do that. And then I have my own email servers.
Okay. How long was HighDay under development until you launched recently?
2 years.
Yeah.
Past 2 years. I mean, it was definitely an idea that I had back when I was actually hands-on operating. And then once I stopped doing that, I really had the space to start planning it out and building it.
In your opinion, does the cannabis industry have a marketing problem that extends beyond logistics?
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's several different challenges. because you have challenges from different avenues that you want to advertise on, like Google and Facebook and LinkedIn. You also have challenges with people that may not understand how to properly market as well. And that's in any industry. So, if you have challenges that you're not really up to speed on what you should be doing, and then the things that you really should be doing, you could have roadblocks to do, it causes an issue that we're aiming to solve.
Are these marketing problems primarily on the B2C side of the business, or are there B2B problems as well?
I think there's problems in both. Like if you're B2B, let's say I'm a brand and I'm selling to dispensaries and I want to send text messages to the buyers. If you're going to sit there and do them one at a time, that's very inefficient. So a system like ours can solve that problem. And if you try to get a regular text message account, you still have to show that you're a cannabis company unless you're saying you're something else. But then at some point, it's going to catch up to you. So problems are both B2B, B2C. B2C a little bit more profound, because you're actually going out more into the public. So that's, Facebook's and Instagram and Google all have issues. LinkedIn is actually like the place to be for cannabis. Definitely for B2B, 100%.
I completely agree with you. LinkedIn, like all of them were completely shut off and they slowly turned on, but LinkedIn was the one that seemed to really understand the opportunity.
Yes. And they seem to block some things. I've been hearing a little bit about that, but there's just so much cannabis content. It's actually refreshing and exciting.
No, I completely agree with you. There's an entire cannabis community on LinkedIn that's very active. A lot of times on these social media platforms, there are communities, but they don't extend beyond, generic hashtags that just trigger spam bots. What of the social media platforms, what have you had the most success with in terms of marketing? Is it LinkedIn?
For B2B and HighDay would definitely be LinkedIn. Earlier on, Instagram for a retailer and a brand to get to the public, Instagram is definitely one of the top.
Okay.
If not the top.
So I understand that you were probably the best beta user for HighDay, but sometimes you need an outside perspective. Have you had anyone check it out before you launched, and what was some of the feedback, if so?
Yeah, the feedback has been very, very positive. A lot of people have been blown away by it because it's very well thought out and all encompassing. It's like I really can't show you all at the same time because your mind will explode just because there's so much there. So you kind of have to take it in bits and pieces. But the feedback has been amazing. One of the cool things that we do you know what spin tax is?
I don't know what spin tax.
Okay. So spin tax is a marketing term where you take, let's say you have in a message, hi, hello, hey. Yeah, and you in the message, you have that in brackets and in pipes. Our system will see that and rotate those words through each message. So let's say we have that weave through the whole message. We can take a small message and turn it into 500 unique messages.
Okay.
So instead of sending the same message out to 1,000 people, it's more unique and personalized. That helps with deliverability in a huge way.
Okay. What does the on-ramp look like when somebody decides to buy into HighDay, just to make sure, you don't blow their minds?
Yeah. So, first we do a demo, kind of get to know them, what they're looking for, demo the system. Once they sign up, my team takes over. So some of the cool things, onboarding, we have 2 1-hour Zoom calls where my tech team gets on with you and onboards you, kind of sets everything up with you, can take over your screen, just help you get everything set up and ready to rock and roll. We have every 2 weeks, we have live calls, kind of like office hours where we answer questions. And we have live 24/7 online support via chat. And then if you really get stuck, our tech team will jump on Zoom and they can even log in and make changes for you.
Okay. Well, I really like the approach to customer service. Is it sort of you buy in at one level, or is it tiered?
Yeah, so our base tiers, we have three. We have a $497, a $697, and an $897 per month tier. They vary with what they have. And then we have various upgrade packages. So something that's unique with us, our SMS is based on how many you need to send per day because we build the route for you. It's not like if you're familiar with Twilio or some of the other companies, basically you just infinitely scale up as you need it and come back down and scale up and come back down. That doesn't work for us because we're building the route for you based on what you need. So it's how many you need to send per day. And then we have upgrade packages as you step up through that. You know, we could do north of 1 million SMS per day. It just depends. So 3 base rates and then upgrades.
Do you know approximately what kind of ROI people are looking at if used to its highest potential?
I mean, yeah, between 5 and 10x is what I'm always shooting for.
Yeah. Okay. Is it, were you skeptical about launching in this current cannabis environment? Were you or, did you think the time is right for helping people, or people were more in need now just because things are tighter?
I have zero hesitation because of the landscape of the industry. When times are tight, people have typically people cut their marketing spend, which is the last thing you should be doing. You should be increasing your marketing spend during tough times because nothing happens unless you sell something. If you're not selling it, you're dying. So no. And we don't just serve cannabis. We serve cannabis, hemp, vape, and psychedelics. So there's a ton of CBD hemp stores out there online with Shopify. One of the cool things is we are directly integrated with Shopify. Klaviyo, which is an email and SMS provider that connects with Shopify as well. They won't do SMS with cannabis, hemp, vape, or psychedelics. So we can take that place and they can immediately, after being set up, start doing abandoned cart remarketing, also marketing to their customers via SMS through our platform.
Without giving everything away, do you have tips or strategies that work when it comes to marketing in both B2C and B2B?
Sure. So for B2C, the last 10 dispensaries I went into, not one asked me for my info.
Oh,
that's
okay.
A tip right there. Because you already spent the money to get the people in your door. Don't spend the money again to get me back in the door. Get my information and then start marketing to me. Because you never know when that message is going to spark me to come back in versus me maybe coming back in because of the experience I had there. But I'm seeing like 100 different things. So I may just go to where it like randomly go someplace, right? So definitely capture the business that's coming in your door so you can remarket them. That's huge. And then for brands, so one of the things that I always wanted to do was to create like an online course for bud tenders to go through and kind of get indoctrinated into my brand ethos and what we're about and how to sell us. That's hard to present in a bud tender training or brand activation. I don't know if you're familiar with what they are. That's typically when a brand goes to a dispensary, spends a little bit of time with all the bud tenders, give them a little education on the brand, and then the rest of the time is usually a brand activation for the consumers in front of the dispensary. So what I always wanted to do is have a whole course where they can, at their own leisure and speed, go through and learn about the brand. So I built that in HighDay, so we can do that. So I would suggest every brand have an account with HighDay and start indoctrinating their customers. You can do this with consumers and your bud tenders through and build that relationship.
So I understand why the brand wants to pull the bud tenders in for that sort of training. Are there any sort of incentives to pull them in, spend the time and train up on a brand?
Well, that obviously depends on the brand.
Yeah.
So we would do contests, not every dispensary. So we had a few different things going because not every dispensary wanted you to incentivize their bud tenders to sell your product, which, I mean, if you really look at it, could be kind of an issue where, hey, maybe there's a really good product that this customer needs, but hey, they're getting compensated over here to sell this product, and the customer never knows about this product. So I'm kind of up in the air about that. Compensating bud tenders to do it, but you can make it fun and add some gamification into it, do some prizes, but nothing where it's like a major thing. I mean, I've moved away because when I had the brand, I was like, yeah. And now that I really sat back and I thought about it, I'm like, you know what? What I want is the consumer to get the best product they need. Mm-hmm. So how we can make that happen.
So it sounds like brands can also invite consumers to take this training. Are there any other tools in HighDay for the consumer?
Yeah, so you can do the course. We also have a community kind of application built into it, almost like a Facebook group. So that's an area. And then we have landing page builders, website builder, a blog builder, forums and surveys. So that's where, depending on what you're doing as a brand, you can engage with the end consumer as well.
What are some of your thoughts on the current state of cannabis in the United States? And what are some of your expectations when it comes to potentially federal legalization?
Yeah, I mean, it's positive to see that there's more movement in the government than there has been for a long time. I'm not super optimistic that it's going to go fast, just based on how things are so polarized politically these days. I'm thinking maybe 5 years or so. I mean, I'm not really sure. I mean, it could be something that someone spits out for the election, maybe. I mean, it's probably I kind of hesitated to say Trump card, but it's a card that can be pulled. I don't know if they will pull it. I mean, like the new speaker, I mean, that guy's super against cannabis. So, yeah, I'm not really sure. I am excited. Like I'm excited for Ohio. I'd like to see other states move to legalization, either medically or recreationally. I'd like to see Pennsylvania go recreational and Florida. I'm actually pretty intrigued about Georgia and the low potency being sold at pharmacies. I think that's a major milestone that really doesn't get a whole lot of a conversation about. I've seen some, but that's pretty huge. And if other states go that direction, that's just super interesting to me.
So, back when you were 16, could you have ever imagined that we would have the cannabis industry as it stands today?
Oh man, so it's funny you say that. So early on in Hollister, so one of the things that we did is we integrated a lot with the police department. So I had all the cops, we were the training center for the police. And I made that happen. I kept saying, look, we will train every single police officer on exactly what's going on, what to expect when you're doing a traffic stop, what not to do, what to look, what is all this stuff that you probably don't know what it is. So during one of these trainings, I had 400 pounds of cannabis in our warehouse, and they're all looking at it and they're all smelling it and checking it out. And I'm like in my head, freaking out. And so I actually said to him, I said, hey, 16-year-old Carl is going crazy right now. and then I said, if we're in Alabama, this would be a different conversation.
Understood. Man, what was it like? What was it like interfacing with the police department like that? I mean, and what were some of the things that you were training them on in terms of, what they were looking at during a traffic stop?
Yeah, it was super cool. I enjoyed that. I didn't feel weird about it at all. I mean, we were legal. I mean, I just community outreach, right? So we're building relationships with the community, the fire department. Like when COVID hit, we made hand sanitizer, seeing if I have any left, and gave it away to the whole community for free. And I gave it to the police department, and it had my cannabis logo on it, of course. And we're like, hey, can we get some without the logo? And I said, no, that's the price you have to pay for free hand sanitizer, is my logo on every one of your desks.
Yeah, it's branding. It's branding.
Totally. So some of the things we were training on, the different smells, the different types of cannabis products. So we showed them bubble hash, we showed them shatter, we showed them butter and batter and rosin, and don't touch this, don't, like if it's like distillate, and just kind of schooled them on all the different processes and what all these products are, because they really didn't know.
Well, but I mean, that's incredible, just because you normally see more of an adversarial relationship between law enforcement and even legal dispensaries or legal operators. I really feel like that did a lot to bridge that gap.
It definitely did. Plus, I was at every board of supervisors meeting, speaking to them. I would talk to them, build relationships, joke with, they realize, oh, Carl's a cool guy. So, just being like human and normal.
Well, Carl, I really appreciate you taking the time, and just hearing even a little bit about your story is incredible. One of the things, though, is, you're a serial entrepreneur. You don't hesitate when it comes to an opportunity. Do you ever foresee an opportunity coming outside of cannabis that might pull you away from the industry?
I mean, I have other things in other industries, kind of dipping my toe in, but right now, everything is HighDay, and then probably the public company too. There's some things going down with that I'll probably have to get involved in.
Okay. Any plans to go to MJ Biz this year?
100%. It'll be my 8th or 9th one.
Excellent. Well, I hope I get an opportunity to see you there, man.
Well, would love to sesh with you. Shout out to anybody that sees me there. Let's smoke a joint. I'm down. Let's do it.
Well, before we get out of here, is there anything else that you want to make sure the Cannabis Equipment News audience either knows about yourself or HighDay?
Yeah, just that we're advocates for the plant, for the industry, and HighDay is built for the industry, by the industry. Like, we understand what you need because we need it. We had to make it for ourselves. I'm not some tech guy that just all of a sudden decided to be in cannabis. I'm a cannabis guy that figured out solutions for problems in cannabis.
Well, I'm really interested to follow the story, and hope for nothing but success for yourself and HighDay.
Thank you. Same to you guys.
All right.
Appreciate you having me on.
Well, before we get out of here, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You could also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach me at david@cannabisequipmentnews.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You can also subscribe to our daily newsletter. Make sure you get it delivered to the inbox first. For Carl Sailing, co-founder and CEO of HighDay, I'm David Manti. This is the Cannabis Equipment News Podcast. We'll see you next week.